Good afternoon, everyone. This is the continuation of our report. I am Bayan Pangcoga, and I am going to continue the discussion from rule number 8. Rule number 8. National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Training Institutes. Section 1. Purpose. Pursuant to Section 9 of the RA 101-201, NDRRM, NDRRM Training Institute should be established for the following purposes. A. Train public and private individuals, both local and national, in such subject as the disaster risk reduction management, including emergency response, capacity, building programs for the implementation of Section 14 of this Act. B. Consolidate and prepare training materials and publication of disaster risk reduction and management books and manuals to assist disaster risk reduction and management workers in the planning and implementation of this program and projects. C. Conduct research programs to upgrade knowledge and skills and document best practices on disaster risk reduction and management. And D. Conduct periodic awareness and education programs to accommodate new elected officials and members of the LDRRMCs. Section 2. Training Program. The OCD may engage the expertise of the other National Council, member agencies, and other training organizations accredited by the National Council. It should be inclusive in conducting, designing and developing, and training programs, materials and syllabus of the Institute to ensure that the training program and resource materials are supported of the mandated tasks of the NDRRMC. Section 3. Location. Suitable locations for the establishment of said institutes shall be determined in consultation with concerned stakeholders and with the approval of the National Council. Section 4. Organizational structure. The organizational structure of the NDRRM training institutes shall be developed by the OCD, subject to the approval of the National Council in accordance with the existing laws, rules, and regulations. Rule 9. Accreditation, mobilization, and protection of disaster volunteers and National Service Corps, CSOs, and the private sector. Section 1. Accreditation. The government agencies, CSOs, private sector, and LGUs may mobilize individuals or organize volunteers to augment their respective personnel complement and logistic requirements in the delivery of disaster risk reduction programs and activities. The agencies, CSOs, private sector, and LGUs concerned shall take full responsibility for the enhancement, welfare, and protection of their volunteers and shall submit the list of volunteers to the OCD through the LDRRMOs for accreditation and inclusion in the database of community disaster volunteers. Section 2. Mobilization. Mobilization of volunteers shall be in accordance with the guidelines to be formulated by the NDRRMC consistent with the provisions of the Act. Section 3. Capacity building. Training for volunteers shall form part of the volunteer mobilization activities of the NR, LDRRMC, and the BDC. Section 5. Insurance for the ACDVs. Any volunteer who incurs death or injury while engaged in any of the activities defined under the Act shall be entitled to compensatory benefits in individual personnel accident insurance. The government agency, CSO, private sector or LGU which mobilizes the ACDVs shall be responsible for providing the latter with insurance and necessary benefits. Section 6. Guidelines on mobilization, accreditation, capacity building and protection of ACDVS from various sectors. The NDRRMC, through the OCD, shall promulgate, and issue within the 3 months from the effectivity of these rules the guidelines on the mobilization, accreditation, capacity building, and protection of ACDVS from the government agencies, CSOS, private sector, and LGUs. Rule 10. Integration of disaster risk reduction education into the school curricula and Sangguniang Kabataan or SK program and mandatory training for the public sector employees. Section 1. Integration into the school curricula, the DepEd, the CHED, the Technical Education and Skill Development Authority, TESDA, in the coordination with the OCD, the National Youth Commission, NYC, the DOST, the DNR, the DILG, BFP, the DOH, the DSWD, and other relevant agencies shall integrate disaster risk reduction and management education in the school curricula of secondary and tertiary level of education, including the National Service Training Program, NSTP, whether private or public, including formal and non-formal, technical, vocational, indigenous learning, and out-of-school youth courses and programs. Section 2. Community Education and Training. The NDRRMC, the RDRRMCs, the LDRRMCs, the LDRRMS, the LDRRMOs, the BDRRMCs, and the SK Councils, in coordination with the National Youth Commission, NYC, shall encourage community, specifically the youth, participation in disaster risk reduction and management activities, such as organizing quick response groups, particularly in identified disaster-prone areas, as well as the inclusion of disaster risk reduction and management programs as part of the SG programs and projects. In the same manner, they shall likewise encourage and involve the community, specifically the youth, and the risk reduction training, either through actual conduct or as participant to the said training. Section 3. Education and Training of Employees of the Public Sector. The public sector employee should be trained in emergency response and preparedness with a strong focus on gender responsiveness, sensitivity to indigenous knowledge system, and respect for human rights. Towards this end, the following guidelines are hereby established to ensure this effective implementation and compliance. A. The Civil Service Commission shall issue a directive requiring all heads of government departments and agencies, including government financing institutions and local government units, to conduct training on DRRM for their respective personnel. B. A train-the-trainer's approach should be adopted for this purpose, whereby member agencies of the NDRRMC, including the government agencies and local government units shall organize and train their respective DRRM corps of trainers who shall be responsible in cascading the training to the regional, field level, and or LGO staff. C. A standard training design and instructional materials on DRRM should be developed by the DRRM Training Institute in accordance with Rule Number 8, Section 1 of these rules and shall be implemented by the CSC. D. Members of the National Council which already conduct specialty and highly technical skill courses may continue with the conduct of the said training programs. Rule number 11. Coordination during emergencies. Section 1. Lead agency during emergency, the MCs shall take the lead in preparing for, responding to, and recovering from the effects of any disaster based on the following criteria. A. The SDC if a barangay is affected. B. The city municipal DRRMCs if two are respected at all times. In this context, the Philippines should have the primary responsibility to respond to disasters occurring with its territory in external assistance and offers of assistance shall only be provided upon its request or consent. That's all.
Thank you.